the Rangers Journal Night.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on when you're watching this. This is the Rangers Journal, and this is the Lowdown. My name is Doug, and we're here for another pre-match episode to fill you in on all the details you need to know about our upcoming opposition, which is in Panathinaikos. This season on the Lowdown, we're going to try and bring you a more varied show. One of those variations will be co-hosts coming in to give you another voice to listen to that isn't just mine, so a little bit more wider opinions on what's to come. And I'm delighted to have my first co-host today, which is Mark. Mark, how you doing?
I'm good, Doug. Thank you very much. Good to be on, so I'm looking forward to this, actually. Really looking forward to this.
Good stuff, good stuff. So we'll be talking about Panathinaikos. Just to kick off, first of all, obviously a good 2-0 win in the first leg. How did you think things went in that match?
Yeah, I think obviously it was such a big test so early on, and new into Russell Martin's sort of a reigning era. I think he's been quite open in his press conferences that the team that's playing at the moment won't be the team at the end. So he's trying to get through these while we try and sort of shape the squad, and some go out and some come in. So overall, we had offered 2-0 in a Champions League qualifier. I think anybody would have snapped your hand off. Clean sheet was massive.
Absolutely, and we will touch on the clean sheet aspect again as we go through. So first of all, as we always do on the Lowdown, we'll have a wee look at current form. Not an awful lot to add to this from our first episode. Panathinaikos haven't had any further matches since we played them, so their last match was the 2-0. Their run-up hasn't been great for them, to be honest. They've only got the one win, which was against AEK Athens. But other than that, they've had a lot of tight losses in their pre-matches, similar to the game that they had against us. We've obviously since played Middlesbrough the weekend there, just the 2-2. Another performance very similar to how things have been going for us since the tail end of last season, really, in that we had a first half, went 2-0 down, and then had to pull it back in the second with a much improved performance. Although I think this one, Mark, we can maybe put down a little bit more just to the fact that the lineup that was out in that first half, I think always was going to maybe not perform quite as well as we'd want. A lot of the backup players in there, the secondary players, and also them playing in a really unfamiliar system.
Yeah, he made some sort of a strange decision, didn't he? I think Baylor Rice is at centre-half for a wee bit, and Cortez is at right-back for a bit, and things like that. So I think the question was posed to him, did he try and put players into a wee sort of a situation that they weren't familiar with? And he sort of said yeah to try and see how it was. But I think when we looked at the starting lineup, I think we could all see him. Look, and there's brilliant, good side, good championship side, good pedigree, still spend a lot of money. I think they're probably only 1 week away. Also a new manager for them. Obviously Michael Carrick left and they brought a new manager. So they'll be out trying to go and sort of stake claims, because I think their seasons must be due to start the championship. That must be the next coming weeks as well. And obviously they had the boy that I'm not sure they played, but the boy that we were linked to, and I think they signed him for 10 million. We were linked to him when he was at Plymouth, and that the boy Whittaker as well. So they've got good pedigree in the squad. So it was a good test, and look, he's not been beat yet, has he? So we can't really fault him much. He's not been beat. So
That's true.
He's not been beat.
Good point. Yeah, it was a really good game. I thought I forgot to mention it in the post match actually, but Middlesbrough brought a great crowd to the game as well. Good 7,000 plus that came. So, and like you say, good first team. And I think their issue, and I've seen some of their fan blogs afterwards as well, talking about their they've not quite got the bench players there yet. So I think their first team started to tire, coinciding with us bringing on our first team, which helped us sort of bring it back to the 2-2. So yeah, another good friendly match, and a good run out for some of the players in advance of this as well. So normally we would obviously, as I'm sure you guys will know, we would go on and talk a little bit about Panathinaikos' tactics, and look at their formation, what we expect from that, and who some of their danger men are. Obviously, it's only been the week since we've looked at that in the original Lowdown episode, so we're going to look at a little bit something different in this one. Well, we've got Mark here to talk through it as well, and have a look at some two of the sort of incidents from the actual match in that first leg of times where they did manage to kind of break lines and potentially get chances. If you do want to see a little bit about the specific lineups, formation or tactics in a more broader sense, pop back to that first Lowdown episode for the first leg, and that stuff will be all in there for you. Nothing I've said in there is any different to what I've said now. The only difference that I would have added is the fact that obviously with the red card, one of their better players is now missing, so that's obviously a plus for us. But going into examples here. So this first example, this is actually the said player who got the red card. This is where he got his first yellow when he dives as they get into the box. But we've got to be set up here, Mark. The defence, relatively decent positioning. They're in line with each other. So there's sort of a little danger of anyone sneaking in or breaking the sort of offsides. They've only got the kind of three attackers in picture at once, and we'll see as we move forward and another player comes forward. The only thing that's maybe a slight concern here is the gap between Suter and Aarons on the right hand side.
Yeah. Look, if you look at it as a broad scale, we've got a flat back four. You've got two recovering midfielders, so you've got a 6-3 position. Could the gaps be a wee bit shut over, so Suter get closer to Aarons, the Jigger can come across, and Tav can pick the man it's furthest, because he's not really affecting the game where he is, so can they just, and it'll stop the passing lane off. But as I say, as it stands, if you looked at that in a broad scale, I think you've got a 6-3, you can technically go man for man and still have spare, obviously with Butland, but obviously when we see the next slide, we'll see that it sort of changes a wee bit. But ultimately, I think, yes, Tav can come in 5 yards, which pushes Suter over, which stops the passing lane, which brings our other centre-half over. They could be just that wee bit further over in the park.
So moving on to that slide, as you mentioned, we see here now a second or two ahead. So we've still got our flat back four across. If you kind of follow the red line all the way along, you'll see the flat back four. We've got the Panathinaikos winger on the far left now, just under the Rangers at the scoreboard. Coming in, Tav is obviously should be keeping an eye on him. You've got I think Diamandi there as well, kind of in the space. In terms of the Panathinaikos players, the white winger has now started to make a bit of a move. Aarons is pulled out further, or well, not really further. He's roughly where he was. But he pulled out a little bit to kind of combat that. Suter is now slightly narrower as they've moved back, and this has opened that gap even more. So you've now got this really big space, as highlighted there in red, between the full back and the centre back, and that leads to where we see the man that previously had the ball. He has passed it backwards to the midfielder, who's the one with the white line coming off him, and he's going to pass right along that white line with the runner moving along the green line, and that's how they kind of get into the position to attack.
Yeah, it's sort of a white line. You see, I think it's Rothwell trying to get back across to shut off the pass line once again. Finlay Cutlass can maybe apply a wee bit more pressure or be sort of a goal side. The manager said he said Cutlass didn't have the best of first half, so we maybe been caught. But I just say that was their aim. Their aim was stretch between your gaps because of their shape and their formation, was to stretch the gaps between your right hand centre half and right back, or left hand centre half and left back, to then create this passing lane so you can do a third man run or an overlap. As you can see, maybe I'm trying to see who's on it. He's looking at the ball. It might be Raskan, and you can see the boy's already on the move off his shoulder. The time Raskan sort of turns, then he has to then try and get back in.
Yep. So moving on to the final slide for this move, you see then you've now got the guys advanced. The pass has been made. He's advanced on the ball. Aarons, to his credit, and Suter, they really do pincer down into the player, and I think that's commendable for the two of them. He does have to put the work in to try and beat them, haven't come together. Obviously, as we know, he kind of feigns past Suter and then dives, so we end up with the free kick, the booking. But I'm reasonably pleased nonetheless that they sort of, as I say, managed to close that gap a bit. Jigga's on his man in terms of if there was a pass into the centre. The only thing we would potentially need to keep our eyes on is both the wingers. They do have the space there to potentially still advance. Obviously, with Aaron's going into the ball, you've got the guy behind him there who's got a potential avenue. Maybe if the other chap slips the ball into him rather than diving, and then obviously Tav would need to be cognizant of the winger behind him. He is a little bit further out, so that hopefully wouldn't be an issue. But that would be the other, but a bit of danger there. But did you think that they closed that gap all right, or do you still think that if he'd chosen to stay his feet, that could have been more dangerous?
From the position, if you look at it now, we had originally in this, we had a 6-3. Did we say 6-3? And we were quite happy. If Aarons goes to the if you look at the two wingers and they two get picked by Aarons and Tav, you're actually 4 for 4 man for man. So I know we don't get away with it, I'm saying, but we go and press the ball together, which is fine, as you quite rightly mentioned. But if that's a wee ball in the channel round Aarons or towards the byline, we've been caught at the back post before, many a games, whether it's been Tav or Barisic previously, which seem to switch off. Tav's looking at the ball, which is fine. He does do that, and he doesn't think about what's over his shoulder at times, and sometimes there's a pass at the back post. So we do get it. He does make a dive. Ultimately, we're fortunate he ends gets sent off. But if he does slip that ball down the line, that's a pass across, and then you're then man for man in the middle. So we went for a fantastic position where we had 6-3, sort of a 3 originally, and then cut a wee half minute later, we're near enough 4v4.
Do you think anything more could have been coming from the midfield this year? I mean, you got kind of 3 of them very close together, kind of just middle of the screen there, and then you've got another 3 just on the far left.
Yeah,
but really, there's no players or anything around them. Do you think there's more that they could be doing?
I think then they have to get back in. So I would say Rothwell's closest to the ball, then Raskin, and then it's probably Finlay Curtis. Diomande central, near enough our whole team is in that picture. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10. We're all back, so we've all got back. So but we're all back, but we're still slightly ahead of the ball. You would always in football, want either a 4v3, 3v4, and have one man as an overload. So if something gets cut back, you can go and do it. But there, our risk and reward is we're brave enough. Will we be stupid enough at times to go man for man and get caught? And that's probably what a lot of Rangers fans are probably still sitting on the edge with at the moment. I think if you get a natural left back, that could be Aaron's other side, and I still don't think the team will look the way it is. I don't see us going through the season with a front 3 of Finlay Curtis, Danilo and Kieran Bill. So let's early days, and you can see positives though, I believe, that we're trying to play a different way. So I don't think there's going to be many times this season we'll come away from Ibrox and go, oh, it was the old horseshoe, or it was dead slow and various bits. So I think we take that as a positive. But yes, recovery's key, and Rothwell has to get back in. I think these things will come as we get fitter and stronger and better as a unit.
Absolutely. I do think, I mean, and we'll see it in our next example, like you sort of touched on, there's a big risk-reward element to Russell Martin's play. And I think you've got these 6 players all kind of still in the kind of midfield area, which if we turn the ball over, that's great. You're immediately pressing in into attack again. But you've got maybe slightly less players than we were maybe used to, who are going to be more defensive. And as some people have talked about in various other pods, we will probably lose some goals that way. But we're probably hopefully going to score a lot as well. So we can see an example of, as I say, where this risk reward can fail. So this is another chance for Panathinaikos. This was just before Finlay Curtis's goal, where Panathinaikos get a chance from pressing. Very similar to in the Middlesbrough game, we lost the ball like this a lot in the first half, in addition to giving the ball away from slack passes. The other way Middlesbrough were getting really good turnovers was just pressure, very fast, closing down and nicking the ball, and that's exactly what happens here. We've got a perfectly good sort of square or diamond players here. You've got Jigga as the furthest back, Suter, your other centre back, kind of just at the far part of the centre circle there. Tavernier right on the halfway line, and then we think that's well, it is Aarons, who's up and inverted into the middle, and that was something we saw happening a lot in the game. The two fullbacks up and inverted into the midfield area, and Tavernier's just passed the ball to Aarons, which at this point absolutely no danger. Aarons has got a whole circle to himself. There are a number of players around, but there's not really any danger at this moment in time. It's highlighted in the next slide as well. The one thing that, and you sort of pointed this out when we were chatting about it earlier, you've got a whole 5 players right along their defensive line. They're pushed right up in the sort of attacking positions. And the one thing I maybe like to see that I don't think we're probably going to see, because as I say, this is Martin's sort of ultra attacking fashion, is that, the high in the left there, Finlay Curtis, would be, for me, I would prefer him to be just ever so slightly deeper. He's kind of just standing. You can see kind of the pitch lines there. There's a kind of a light green strip of pitch just in front of him, and he's on the kind of the right side of it. I'd like him to be on the left side of it, just a little bit back, because it opens up, I think, an easier passing route for Aaron should you want to go out that way, because you've obviously got the Panathinaikos player directly in between them. And that just might bridge that gap a little bit, but give him more options. But the problem that we have here, which we see in the next slide, is that Aarons gets caught in the ball, and that did happen to him quite a few times in the first half and the first leg of this game. A few people saying it didn't look comfortable because he's having to turn on his more favoured foot because he's on the left. You can see, obviously, the guy, he really does. You don't obviously see it here with the pictures, but he closes that gap very, very quickly. Aarons obviously has 2 passes. He could put the ball to Jigga or to Suter, but doesn't get the opportunity. You can see this big, massive space has been highlighted here. Finlay Curtis could, for me, have been closer to that. But this then sets up the break that they then go on. So you can see here, the guy with the ball, he's the one with the red arrow. So he's going to start driving in that arrow's direction, but ultimately will pass the ball to the chap who's highlighted with the white arrow. So he's making the run sort of along towards that back post area on Tav's side. And then you've got the chap with the green arrow. He's going to cross directions with the guy on the ball to obviously, it's a classic move to create space and move defenders around to have space here. So that's kind of the direction they start moving. And you've got concerns about Tavernier and the position that he's in here, and maybe his inability to see the guy that's behind him.
Yeah. I think obviously the slide before highlights what we're trying to do with an inverted fullback. And you're right, if it's a left footer, it goes into Aarons, probably goes first time to Suter and can be open to Curtis. And then you've broke their line in a 3 press, because we've got, I think, Rothwell sitting just in front of it. But this is when it doesn't get right. But you still look at it and you've still got a 4v3, but Aarons is just trying to get back in. But see, for me, like Tavernier, I think once again he doesn't look over his shoulder. Now, I've been one of Tav's big favours, but obviously in this, people think, oh, there's another Tav bashing, and it's not like that at all. But I think he gets dragged to the ball, where I think is, if we're 2 centre halves come to that ball, the danger man is the person with the white arrow, because you sort of are running towards goal boy, the green arrow's going wide. It would be a reverse pass. The boy with the red arrow's also driving with the ball. That would be the reverse pass that would be required, as opposed to him driving into that space and playing the ball through that red line, and it would be then a foot race between Tavernier and the winger. But he gets dragged to the ball. We're showing it as sort of a not great, but we end up and when we get to the next slide, and it'll come up, we end up with our 2 centre halves become our 2 fullbacks, and our 2 fullbacks become our 2 centre halves. So ultimately, yes, you still want, it doesn't really matter where we end up, we want a 4, but I think with communication and talking and maybe a bit of understanding, I think Tav should just match that run on Pat, stop off the passing lane, to get him. Butland's probably a quite higher line. He'll play a higher line under Martin because we play so high. So I think then it becomes just a pass and can he get it right? But then if Tav's body shape's different, I think we can see both because he's going to run back towards goal. But then as long as he gets his hand across him, but as you'll see in the next slide, he sort of gets dragged into that area and their left winger, as it would look like, actually ends up with a wee bit more space. Jigger gets across and sort of blocks it out, and obviously Butland makes a save, but as I say, we'll see that in a wee minute. But I just think at times we just need to go with a runner and not always be attracted to the ball. If it's a young boy, maybe you go, right, he's attracted to the ball, I understand that, if that was Curtis. But I think in this, maybe it's the way Martin's telling them, you get in and close that and the full back will go across and the centre half will be wide. That could be sort of what he's been told, but I just think in the past, some of the goals that we've lost and cheap goals over the years, it's been somebody at the back post or no picking a runner because we get dragged in. Like Aaron's, we spoke about it in the clip before. Aaron's gets dragged in a wee bit, and if it's a wee ball down the line, it can get passed across. But obviously, ultimately, you look at that and you're going, Rothwell's recovering, so you've actually got 5-1-3 at one point. But as I say, when we see the next slide, you'll see sort of how it sort of transfers out, and we get, I'm not saying we get lucky, it's a quite comfortable save for Butland when he down at his feet and he sort of recovers quite well. But as I say, I think I just worry about people talk about his legs, Tav's legs and that, if that's somebody driving in there and it's, let's face facts, if that's a ball played through, is that red arrow and it's a Maeda, that just becomes a foot race for me. Whereas your body shape can be better.
And in that scenario, is it better that perhaps Tav is moving to the centre and the centre backs are moving outwards in terms of maybe not so much Suter, but obviously Jigga is much younger. Not, I don't know how quick he is.
But right now, if you look at Jigga at the moment, he's actually facing Suter. He's getting no awareness of that winger either. If you look at his body, he's looking at the ball. He doesn't know what's over his shoulder. So unless they talk, as if you look, we're doing it off slides, and
which you'd hope they do. You'd hope they do.
Many a time they've not, Doug. Many a time they've not. But yeah.
So moving on to that next slide that you mentioned there. So we see at this point, obviously, Tav has come in from his position to try and close this space. Aaron's is still following cap of the ball. Tav has come in to try and block that space off. Jigga is now turned and moving in that direction. Suter obviously in that direction as well. And you've got the guy running who is going to receive the pass, which moves on to him getting his opportunity. So the ball is now with him in the box there. He takes the shot, which goes to he's already taken the shot actually, and the ball is with Butland at this point. So Jigga's come across, gotten to him quite well. As I think he nullifies his shot to a certain degree. You've got Aarons, who's obviously is taking him into kind of that right centre back position. Tavernier, who continues, kind of ends up as the left centre back, and obviously you've got Suter, who, like you say, the two centre backs have become the full backs, and he perfectly marshals because you've got the guy coming in who's just on the edge of the D there. So if we were to continue this, Butland parries that ball out and basically heads out towards Suter, who marshals it. You do see him talking because you visibly see Butland go, I'm getting this, and then kind of comes forward and grabs it, and that's the end of the chance. So anything else you want to add to that?
No, as you see it now, and you look at it, you've got a 4v3, Suter, Tavernier, all goal side, Jigger's goal side. It's a comfortable save. I know it's doing it at Butland's feet, but he makes it a comfortable save, and I'm pretty sure, 95% sure that actually Butland saves that and he goes long, he recycles it, we go, and it goes to Curtis, he comes inside and scores, so from 30 seconds later. But look, you want it, you've still got 4v3, you've got plenty of cover. If Butland was to spill that towards a penalty spot, you would fancy still Suter to win the foot race and going clear, or Tavernier and Aaron's giving us cover. So ultimately, yes, it's fine. He's forced him wide enough with the pass, the Jigger can get across, and if he scores for there, it has to be a good finish for sort of an acute angle.
Absolutely. And I think under Russell Martin, we're going to see a lot of this where players are going to end up in slightly different positions because of where they've been in the park when maybe a turnover occurs. Things like that, where I think we're more used to seeing players kind of being more just in their positions that they're in. But especially with the fullbacks inverting so significantly as they if they continue to do that, I think we'll see more of this kind of, centre backs ending up being fullbacks and things like that, which will take a bit getting used to for some. Because I do still find a lot of general discourse sometimes from supporters. They just expect players to always be in the position that is their position, and the moment they're anywhere away from it, they're doing something wrong, which isn't necessarily the case. Obviously, teams are playing as units, and when players move, you should expect others to move as well as part of that.
The prime example for that's probably been our two fullbacks over the last 10 years, where we've played a right footer on the left and a left footer on the right. So our width is then came from both fullbacks, so they're naturally high and wide. And then when you lose the ball, it gets a quick turnover. It's so easy to blame somebody that's asked to go and do a 60-yard run to go and deliver a cross, but the pass isn't great. And I mean that for whether it was, I think you can go all the way back to Tav and Lee Wallace, originally under Warburton. But I think that's been the same trait sort of all the way through. You want to have to be high and wide, but then when the ball doesn't get fed out to him, or it's not quick enough, or he puts a cross in and we don't attack it properly, it's people's way of getting to us, which is to be go and hit the wide areas because our two fullbacks are very, very high and it leaves you exposed. But ultimately then everybody blames the two fullbacks, but ultimately for me, where is the sitter? And they're getting asked to play a certain way. So ultimately it comes to the manager for me.
Absolutely. And I mean, I think that's definitely been and this is not to say that he's never to blame, because he absolutely is to blame at times. But I think a lot of criticism of Tav has come from scenarios like that, where he's been up, obviously doing the attacking thing. And if he's doing that, and the fact that he's done it so consistently over so many managers and over a decade of time, it's not just him. Managers obviously want him to do that. And if you're going to make that decision as the manager, yes, I want to use Tav's attacking output, then you have to say, well, I need to cover, because if he's going to be all the way up there, that's me leaving a space. And I think the perfect period of time to look at is when Ryan Jack was at his fittest and Goldson was there, because Jack and Goldson were absolutely superb at covering when Tav was attacking. And that period of time that they two were at their peak, I think also helped Tavernier to push into his peak, that sort of 2020 to 22 period, when we really, I feel, got the best out of the team, because they were a huge part of that. Tav was hitting so much numbers back then because I think he was confident, or could be confident, that you had those players at the back doing that. And as they kind of drifted away, Jack in particular with his injuries, I sort of found, I felt we got caught out a little bit more because the players that were coming in didn't cover as well.
No, and it's one of them. You're hoping that whether it was Jack at that point or Lundstrom was wearing their role, and maybe under Gio he done it well, was he would then drop into a back three and your two centre halves is split, which means it's less of a cover. And that's why, if you, as I say, without harping on about it, you go away back to Warburton. That's why he signed Joey Barton. He'll sit there, he'll split my two centre halves, and Wallace and Tav at that point can go. And it's all great and well, but when you've not got the legs to get about the park, or Lundstrom, I don't think was the quickest, but he always stayed central. But even at that time, as I say, going to Europe with Tav's number still arriving at the back post, and that Lundstrom was instrumental. And a lot of times, I know we started with a 4, but if you're going back and do this sort of a breakdown for or tactics breakdown for any of the games, you'll see a lot of the games you end up with a 3 because your two fullbacks are so high. Normally, when you do it, a full back, if the right hand side goes, the left one tucks in, or vice versa. But we do it, or try to do it over that period where you're setting up number 6 or CDM now, as they want to call it, or your central pivot now dropping in to create that 3. So as your two full backs can give you your width.
Absolutely. Okay, so moving on then, we'll have a wee look at the prospective 11 for the game. Not really changed a huge amount from the 11 that I put forward for the first tie. Made changes. I'm not sure if I meant to do it, but I had Suter and Jiga the other way around. So I've kind of swapped them about. But other than that, the main difference is bringing Gassama in for Kieran Dowell. Kieran Dowell has been pretty Kieran Dowley. I think in the games that we've seen him in, he's not been bad, but he's not been good either. He's just kind of there. He did get a good chance, a header, in the game, but other than that, I don't remember a huge amount. Looking at his numbers, his defensive numbers were good. So he did put his work in defensively, but we need more from an attacking sense in these positions. So ideally, I think Gassama comes in, plays on that right wing. I think Finlay Curtis has nailed himself down to get another start. There's no one yet, I think, really pushing him out. He's played 3, scored 3. So I think, in my opinion, it'd be pretty harsh if he gets dropped. The one angle you could maybe come at, I don't know if you'll agree with this, Mark. The younger players tend to not be quite as good defensively because they've not really got their minds set quite as much in that broader team way. We saw that a lot with McCausland when he came in. We lost a few goals down that side because he wasn't tracking back. I don't know if that is as important in a Martin side, however, because he does like to have these players pushed up. So maybe that won't be as important to him. But I do think, as I say, Curtis is playing himself into the side right now. And then I think the only other position that's really a decision is who you play up front. And again, Dessers, I don't think really did an awful lot against Middlesbrough to say that Danilo shouldn't come in. Obviously, Danilo scored, so I think he probably starts again with Dessers to come on. Are there any changes you would make to that, or any thoughts or just general concerns about the lineup?
I know we've done it in the past under other managers, and I wouldn't be unopposed to playing Jeffy White in the left, to be honest, higher than just to give an out ball. I think we'll play a lot on the counter. I'm not saying Curtis can't do that job, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's a sort of a Jeffy. I know he tried Cortes at right back that was touched on earlier on. I don't know if his thinking's in defensively. Are you going to play it with even Cortes wide right and somebody wide left to just give an out ball? Because I think they're going to come and bombard us. They're going to try and score an early goal. I think the whole key for it is playing the counter and just going to attack. I know we've played in the past with like sort of a 2 right backs, haven't we? Sometimes when Sterling used to play ahead at half, sometimes, or Jeffy and Ridvan dovetailed before. So yeah, I think it'll be interesting. I think I look at a full team, and I don't think a professional team should ever start a football match. I know Dio's left-footed, but we don't really have sort of any balance, and I hope that's something that gets addressed over the sort of next coming weeks in the window. But yeah, I think it's hard to leave Curtis out. Does it knock his confidence, or just a young boy? But I think the rest sort of picks itself. I put it this way, I wouldn't be surprised if that's the team to go and get us through.
So the big question that comes from that then is, if you're playing Jeffy, are you dropping Aarons, or are you putting Aarons to the right and dropping Tav?
I would play Jeffy higher. I don't think he's defensively good enough, but I think he's good at going and attacking, and he's a good out ball.
All right, so you'd potentially be playing him in the Curtis role.
I'd play him in the Curtis role. I wouldn't play him at the back. I think defensively he's got questions to be asked, but I think he can give you good cover. Because we now do an inverted fullback as opposed to all our width, like we spoke about. All our width previously came from our 2 fullbacks, but now you want him to stay high and wide. But I think Jeffy's a natural wing back as opposed to a left back or a left winger. I think he sort of plays in that area where he's got an engine that he needs a wee bit of cover. And I've always thought that he could do that. He's quite tall. He can attack the back post quite well, similar to the way Dill did for the back post header. I think Jeffy would get up there. I know he's not scored a lot of goals, but I think it's just, I think you want crosses. I think for a centre forward, where it's Danilo, Dessers, Ziggerman, whoever it may be, I think you want, there's nothing going to come in for that side. It's always going to get cut back, whether Aarons gets wide or Curtis gets wide, or even Gassama gets wide. Everything for that area will be, they'll need to chop back on their right foot, and then you end up offside. I just would like somebody left-footed out there that can go to the byline.
Yep. So kind of like what we did with Yilmaz against Fenerbahce.
Yeah.
Cool, interesting stuff. Yeah, definitely an option there. Like you say, definitely gives that opportunity for the. I've touched on this in other pods as well. Jeffy did, I thought, really well in his really early season last season, and making runs to the byline and cutting back. And at that point, that was when we were playing Danilo as well. And there was one game, I think it was against Hibs, but I can't quite remember. Danilo had just come into the team, and Jeffrey did loads of those runs to the line, cutting it back to Danilo, and he got about 4 or 5 chances from it. Had Danilo been sharper, he'd probably have scored that day, but as it was, he didn't. But I did at the time think that's an exciting combination. It looks like was going to be, but obviously Danilo didn't play as often as we'd have liked, so that didn't come to pass. But okay, moving on to the potential game changer for this match. So I did ruminate across a couple of players, Raskin in particular, having been a big player for us and continuing to do so. But the player I've gone from, Mark, is Jack Butland. Partly based on his performance in the first leg and the fact that, I do expect us, particularly in the first half, probably to be under the cosh a bit. Panathinaikos, as you've said yourself, they're going to want to try and score an early goal, get back in the tie, put the pressure on us. And I do think that we'll need probably another strong performance from Butland, as well as obviously the whole team, but Butland in particular. So I thought, given the chatter that's around Butland, it kind of highlighted him for me as the guy that we need to have another big game.
Yeah, look, I still believe he's your number one. I believe he's your best keeper. I think we need the performances that he done there. I remember last year he went through a wee spell, and then he went to Hearts one of the games, and he was absolutely outstanding. And for us to go through, we need him. We're back 5. We need everybody to have a good game, but particularly them, if aerial balls are coming in, you need them to be big and brave and come and take. And I think I always said at the start when we were talking about, when we done all the pods over the summer, about the sort of where would you change, and I always thought of Jack Butland was our number one. I didn't think there was a reason, sort of it wasn't our main area to go and change. So yeah, I was delighted for Jack. I think if he can get his form back for his first year, then we don't have any issues goalkeeper wise at all.
Yeah, as well, he definitely wasn't a priority position for me either, in terms of, because we had positions where we just didn't have anyone and we needed people. Whereas I think goalkeeper, Jack Butland, like I said, Jack Butland, when he's on form, is a good goalkeeper. So it was more potentially to, if you're going to buy someone, it's to improve in that area because of the system. Because that's the one thing. I've no concerns over Jack Butland when he's on form as a goalkeeper, and ultimately, obviously, that his main thing is to stop shots and to save shots, and he's very good at doing that when he's on form. So it was just a matter of, will he rediscover his form? One game in, he looks like he's doing okay, so hopefully that will continue. And we'll see him do that. So that's our game changer for the day. And then finally, predictions. So I asked Mark before we came on to record this, rather than myself. I thought I'll give Mark the opportunity to put his prediction in. So he's gone for 2-1 to Rangers. I get my opportunity to gloat as well. I said 2-0 for the first leg. So that was right score, right result. So starting the season right. So hopefully that will continue. So how do you kind of see the game panning out as in your 2-1?
I just think they'll come and try and attack, and they'll leave themselves open. And I think we've proved European wise over the years, last sort of a few years, that we can be very deadly on the counter. I think we'll play sort of a counter attacking. I know that's no sort of a Martin style all the time, but I think like we showed in all the highlights. Certainly the one with the wee diamond that they get the shot from, or the wee in the middle. If that goes from Orange to shooter and goes to Curtis, I think we'll break their press quite easily. Similar to the way we did with Fenerbahce when we spoke about it, sort of on the first, and we break their first press, and I think the Heat, I know it'll be really warm, but they'll not be able to press as intensely if we can try and keep the ball at that time and beat their press. So yeah, quietly confident. Hopefully I'm not wrong, but to be honest, see, as long as we're in that next round, I'll take it.
That's my only prediction. I'm kind of feeling 1-1 maybe for this round. I think. I definitely think we'll do enough to get through. That's for sure. But hopefully, let's hope they just go on a bomber and win 4-0. That'll be grand. Who's scoring your 2 goals?
I'm going to give one to Danilo and one to Raskin.
You want to ask it? Perfect. Okay, so that that is everything for us today on another episode of the Lowdown. First of all, to say thanks to Mark for joining us today.
Oh, brilliant, mate. Really enjoyed it.
Good stuff. And as I say, guys, we will be doing various types of lowdowns this year. We'll have, I'm sure we'll have Mark back for more episodes as well as some other guys. In particular, I want to do these ones for the sort of second time we come around teams. Obviously, in Scotland, we play teams 4 times. So it can get, by the time I'm getting to game 4, I've run out of things to say. So it's good to have someone else there. So definitely for ones like that, you'll get more of these type of lowdowns, slightly longer and slightly, as I say, broader opinions. So do tune in and continue to watch, like, and subscribe if you enjoy what you see. I'll be back for the next lowdown, which will be for our first league game of the season. So let's hope that the Bears can do us a good one and get past this first hurdle. And as I say, guarantee us that league phase football in Europe, be that Champions League or Europa League. Just leaves for me to say, every night is a Rangers Journal night. Thanks for watching.